been at this since 2002. You're successful. I remember us having a conversation one time and you talking about getting an $800,000 client. And that was so great to hear, because so often people stay in this very small mindset. And that was one of the things that I loved about what you said, because I think that shows people the possibilities and what is out there. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, one of my visions that I wrote for my business back in around 2014 was that I wanted to create an online training center, because I wanted my company to have scalable products and services that could really impact a lot of people. Like, that was how big my vision was in my own mind. And I thought, well, the only way I can do that is replicate what I'm doing in a lot of different parts of what I'm doing, and then find people to be the mini me's, so that it's not all dependent on me. And I wrote a vision for that. I wrote a vision for what the online center would be and what I needed for it and all of that. And before I could figure that out, a similar thing happened, like I said, about that $300,000 grant. And by the way, the $800,000 thing was also another thing that fulfilled that school reform vision that I had. Both of those, I'm a for-profit company, so I'm not even supposed to get grant money, so I just think things happen in ways that we could never foresee. So when I wrote my vision for my online center, at that time, I didn't know how I was going to, get the modules made or any of it. And so what I did was I happened to be putting in for different interns. Like, the one that came in for my online training center was a 42-year-old woman who had already been doing online training modules, but her company would not let her use the ones she'd already built in her portfolio because she wanted to go out on her own. So here's a very mature person that had experience. She also had instructional design experience. And she helped build out all my initial modules and taught me how to do them so that I could make modifications and all of that. I mean, who would have ever known that would have happened? And then when I was in a position where I was doing a live program one day, and I got invited to do a retreat, and then I'm at this retreat thinking it's a little bitty small company because it's only about 8 women, all wearing blue jeans at a little condo in Branson. I'd done my homework on the company. At the end of the day, it was a company that had been bought out by another company. So they were under a lot of duress. And at the end of this long, day, the senior vice president of operations comes up to me. She was the top person there. And she says, "This is exactly what we need. How do we do this for 1,200 people?" And I'm telling you, my internal jaw dropped to the floor, because I did not know that they were a really big company, bigger than even that. They were about 18,000. And I said, "Well, funny that you should say that. I just wrote this vision. I didn't even have the center built then." And I said, "Would you like to see this vision that we have for how it's going to all be laid out?" And she said, "Absolutely." And so working with that company, with the executives, is what funded our whole initial build of our online center. And I say that to you because, again, I wasn't trying to be all things to all people. I was putting my vision out there, and the people started showing up.
I love it. One of the things that I love about what you said too, and I think it can be a real eye opener for people, is that things evolve, and we don't often know how things are going to happen, where they're going to go. And there's always like the sequence of events that get us to a completely different place. So I love that you had the vision, but you had no idea how that would happen and, where that would come from. And I think that part of that is being really open. So I think you have to be open to receive. I think you have to be open-minded for where things, will go, and not be so rigid that you don't ever expand and you don't ever grow.
I think a lot of people are even afraid to write a vision down because they feel like, well, I can't even see how I would do that. Like, as if I don't know. I mean, to me, I know this is going to sound like a religious thing, but God's way bigger than we are.
Absolutely.
There's so much that can happen that we can't even fathom it.
Absolutely.
Like, I would say most of the things that have happened in my business have happened without me trying to make them happen.
I mean, I could not be more in agreement with you. And
it was your not having to be the one to figure it all out.
Yes.
It's the part that you and I both have in common is we don't hold it like, well, gosh, now I have to figure all this out. We don't hold it that way. Write it as big as feels true. Like, I remember one time I wrote that I want to be a $35 million company, and somebody said to me, why stop at 35 million? And I said, because that's as much as I can hold in my consciousness right now. And it was so funny because the next day I met a company that was 35 million and they were going to 100 million. And I was like, okay, funny. So I don't think people should write just anything down. It should be something they sincerely want.
Right.
I sincerely wanted a scalable business. I sincerely wanted parents, teachers, administrators, and students all on the same page.
Mhm.
You know, like you have to have your heart in it.
Oh, I love this. I love this conversation.